Hey, Moti, great to be able to chat with you today for the Kairos Pro Jiu Jitsu. I'm Lou Temlett, your host of this show, aiming to get more people listening and watching to great Jiu Jitsu podcasts and on great podcast, audio, and video platforms. Oh, yeah, go and subscribe now. I know you're having a great day because you're about to listen to the incredible Moti
Takwoingi.
Takwoingi. Thank you, Moti. Talk about what it means to them to be a part of the Kairos 2 event on the 27th of April, hosted at Escapology and sponsored by 866 Jiu Jitsu Wellness Camp, based in Whaley Bridge in Derbyshire. Go and check out their latest events and get yourself booked on. Frontier Risks Group, disruptors to the security and risk management space, and the home of industry leading SRMC course, also based in Derbyshire. Two Chefs Cambridge, Ben and Tinsin, or commonly known as Ant and Dec, founders of the Two Chefs, meal prep delivering nationwide. I really want to try the salt baked salmon and ratatouille, hopefully soon. And of course, Jits Magazine, home for your BJJ and Jiu Jitsu news, including the latest in MMA events results, interviews, and features, established back in 2012. And me, Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast host. Go and check us out. Links in the show notes. Go follow all of them. And that's it. Welcome, Moti. Thank you for bearing with me. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
So, on a scale of 1 to 100, how are you feeling about fighting at the Kairos 2 Pro Jiu Jitsu event?
100, I guess.
Yay! We love 100. That sounds really exciting. So, Moti, you're a brown belt and you've competed on Kairos before. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I competed at the first Kairos 2 years ago as a purple belt. I went against Julia Scardo. I lost that match by decision, unfortunately, but it was still a really good experience because I was there in person. I got to watch all the matches for the main tournament, so that was a really good experience.
And was that probably one of your biggest shows to date at that point, or had you taken part in other events?
I'd been on Enyo before. Um, Trying to think about the dates. I think I'd been on Grapple Fest as well. But yeah, and so I've been on like some big shows, but it still felt like a new experience.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Now I want you to talk through your fight from the last Kairos, and how that kind of ended up with a decision. How did the flow of that match go for you?
So it was quite funny because we'd actually competed against each other the day before at the English
Oh
Nogi
wow.
Open. Yeah. So it was a direct rematch. So with those kinds of matches, you never know how it's going to go because in the gym, you always have that person where you don't know how the round's going to go. Like sometimes you'll win, sometimes they'll win. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the same with me and you, because I feel like we were quite close in skill level. Um, so from that match, I think we just kind of cancelled each other out a bit because she's a judoka. Obviously, she's going to be playing stand up. I was pulling
Yeah.
guard, trying to sweep her, trying to submit her. She had a very good base, so it was difficult to get anything going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I tried to come up on a sweep or something, and she put me back down. So that was kind of the biggest moment in the match. So it made sense that she got the decision off that.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible that you were fighting the day before and then showed up on Kairos to have a rematch. I mean, what were your thoughts coming into that rematch situation?
Well, I was just hoping I could do it again because I'd won the day before. So I was feeling good. I was like, oh, hopefully I can win this. But obviously, if you've just lost against someone, that's going to be
Mhm.
fresh in your mind. So you're going to be thinking of like how to shut them down, how to counter them. But yeah, I'm used to competing a lot against the same girls. So it wasn't too much of a big deal.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about the kind of category. You were purple belt at the time, and when we compete, it's all in weight categories. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I usually compete at lightweight. If it's like an international competition, sometimes I'll cut to feather. But yeah, it just depends what I'm walking around at. Like at the moment, I'm a bit lighter, so that's why I'm able to do this under 55 bracket.
Yeah. No, do you know what? I'm not really very familiar with the weights. And I always kind of get a little bit excited when people talk about their walking around weight. Um, for me, I'm not even coming close to 55 kg, but it's kind of knowing and having awareness of your own body to know what matches are going to suit you and your kind of well-being, your health, your strength, whatever it takes for you to take part in that particular match. How are you feeling about Kairos upcoming?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I was a bit surprised to get the message actually, because I know who was on the last one, and they're all like super high level. So it's like, oh, you consider me high level then? That's nice.
Oh, that's really lovely. And I think we underestimate our own abilities. And we might not, we kind of look up to these other women in a way that is, kind of amazing. And we never really feel like we're our fair competitors, not even anywhere close. But when you're being invited to be on a show like Kairos, it sounds like it's a great honor.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, amazing. Now, I do you know whether who your competitor is, or is this kind of an open situation?
Yeah, I have no idea because I think there's meant to be 10 of us, so that's 9 unknown people at the moment.
I won't give any games away.
No, I've got
Uh,
a few educated guesses, but we'll see who
Good.
gets announced.
I think it's really kind of amazing to be able to have the under 55s um, because there are lots of women wanting to find matches in that weight category. And it's a real challenge because kind of competitions. I don't know about you. Do you have a challenge getting competitors? It doesn't sound like it so far, but have you been in brackets where there are no other competitors?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, a lot of the times I'll have to compete up 1 or 2 weight classes. So, I did Empire Grappling last weekend after my fight against Jade, and I went up to middleweight for that one. 'Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of walking around at lightweight at the moment, so that was, like, 1 weight class. At Grappling Industries, I think I went up 2 weight classes, and then I
Yeah.
did the absolute as well, so obviously that's open weight. But, yeah, I'm usually competing up 1 or 2 weight classes.
And when for advice for other women that register for competitions or invitationals, and they don't obviously not invitationals because that's kind of set up. But would you recommend that they change weight classes or to get a match?
Um, I think it depends what you're comfortable with. If you're already at the bottom of your weight class and you're moving up, that's almost like 2.
Yeah,
So I guess it depends on the individual if you want to spend money on fighting heavier people. But I feel like especially at amateur levels, I feel like it doesn't matter as much.
yeah,
And if you want the match, you have to do what you have to do. Like one of the girls I went against last week, she moved down from masters to adult, so it'd be kind of hypocritical for me to complain about moving up in weight. You know, we've all gotta
yeah.
make sacrifices to get a match. So if you want it, you'll make it happen.
I love that. For me, being Master Sport, I'm still not quite comfortable fighting someone nearly 20 years younger than me, but maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Maybe.
I love it. Okay, now you mentioned the match with Jade recently. Talk to me about that.
Yes, that was injured professional last Saturday. It was the first time putting on an event, and I really enjoyed it. It was really well organized, well run. Um, I've never gone against Jade before, but I'd seen her on Polaris, and she's been around for a while, so I knew that she had that MMA kind of background.
Yeah,
Um, So I pulled guard as I usually do, and we spent a lot of the time going back and forth on the legs. I was playing a bit of K guard, had a couple of triangle attempts, but MMA fighters are very used to kind of like having good posture,
Yeah.
making it very hard to get stuff going on the upper body. And then we ended up in a 50-50 kind of situation, and then I was able to get an inside heel hook. So that's how I won.
Nice. Nice. I love that. Well, congratulations on that win. Now, you mentioned MMA. Talk to me about your MMA experience and how that benefits your game in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, so when I started combat sports in general, MMA was what I started with. And then I did that for a couple of months, and a lot of the classes were focused on grappling. And I was like, oh, I really like this. And I was like, well, do jujitsu then. So I started doing jujitsu, really enjoyed that. Um, I was at a gym down in Exeter because I was at uni at the time and I was on my placement year. So I was working in Exeter, trained there for about 8 months. Then I moved back home. I think I'm trying to line up the dates. Yeah, I think I cross trained a bit, kind of like in the Solihull, Birmingham area. And
Yeah.
then I moved to my second gym, which was Ippon Gym in Bournemouth.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
if you've heard of it, that's where Molly McCann used to train. So obviously, when I saw that name, I was like, "Oh, I want to train there." So yeah, I went to Ippon, had a really good team, and then they trained me up for my first MMA fight, which I had about a year after joining Ippon.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was a really good experience there. Really enjoyed it. The only downside was that it took away time from jiu-jitsu. I remember there were like competitions I wanted to do, and then my MMA coach was like, "Oh, it's getting a bit close to your fight. You shouldn't do that." So yeah, there was always that battle between wanting to do MMA and wanting to do jiu-jitsu.
Yes. But for now, Jiu Jitsu is your thing.
Yeah, yeah, jiu-jitsu is the main thing. I think because it's been so long, I don't think my MMA background really affects my jiu-jitsu game at all. I suppose it's just like having the knowledge of how an MMA fighter is gonna
Yeah.
move in a grappling match, but I feel like when you get to kind of brown belt level, I feel like most of us have been against MMA fighters anyway. So you kind of, I wouldn't say it's like a major part of my game at this point.
Okay. We'll talk more about that in a minute. This is the Kairos Pro Jiu Jitsu podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. One of the things that would really help this show grow is by you subscribing, whichever platform you are on: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even Amazon Music. If you could do that for me right now, I'd be forever grateful. And as always, go and check out the video clips on YouTube or Instagram at Kairos_pro_jiu jitsu. Today, I'm having a cozy little chat with Moti Takwoingi. I got it right that time, Moti.
Yeah.
Okay, so um, the MMA experience, and you mentioned about fighting I was going to say most of us. I don't even count myself in your category, but when you get to brown belt, most of you have fought other women with MMA experience. How do you feel that other martial arts in the kind of game helps or hinders or your kind of performance, your understanding of jujitsu?
um, so do you mean like my experience? Kind of.
Yes, yeah. So,
Okay.
do you notice when other people have trained MMA or judo, for example, in their game?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely noticeable, especially if it's something they're currently doing rather than something in the past. Because
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people in general got into jiu-jitsu through MMA, but then it's been so long now that it's not really part of their game anymore. But if, like, say my match with Julia on Kairos 2 years ago, obviously she's a judoka, so her game is very like stand up, got a very strong base, hard to sweep.
Yeah.
So that definitely kind of defines her grappling style. And when I've had matches against MMA girls in the past, I feel like it's very hard to move them in a way. Like if you're trying to play guard, it's very hard
Yeah.
to sweep them. They'll have like good posture, kind of like keeping themselves safe. But then at the same time, sometimes they're not really progressing either. Like they're not trying to pass necessarily. So then
Yeah.
you kind of have to work harder to make sure it's not a stalemate. But I'd say like generally speaking, you can tell when someone's done MMA before, like if they've got judo. If you don't know, you'll find out very quickly.
I've still got a long way to go and a lot to learn. But the stalemate situation in competition I have experienced. And I think, you know, I was left with some confusion, but maybe my competitor had some MMA or judoka experience because I then also had to pull guard to progress the match. Um, Tell me a bit about your techniques without giving anything strategically away for pulling guards and kind of progressing matches, Moti.
um, I guess it depends if it's gi or no gi. In no gi, usually you kind of just like grab their hands and sit. It's not the most exciting strategy, but I feel like, especially in the lower weight classes, sometimes it's a race of who pulls guard first,
Yeah,
and you can't really waste your time getting the perfect grips. In the gi, it's a bit different. I feel like guard pulling's a lot riskier because if you mess it up, you're kind of already on the back foot. It's very easy for them to get grips on you and pass.
yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I'd say like especially in gi, you've got to be a lot more careful.
Mm. Well, that's good advice for any of us that haven't yet competed at such levels as yourself, Moti. We will be bearing that in mind. I certainly will. Thinking more about the upcoming Kairos 2 event, it's gi and no gi. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you kind of in the mix for both? Is this a both gi and no gi in the same competition?
Yeah, so what happens is you don't know if your match is going to be gi or no gi until about like 5 minutes before. They'll flip a coin and then that decides what match is going to be, and then you have time to get changed. But you don't have like prior knowledge into how many matches are going to be gi, how many matches are going to be no gi. So that's quite exciting because then you're forced to be prepared for both. It also means you can't overthink it too much in terms of strategy. You just kind of have to be ready for anything.
Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that your kind of brown belt experience, probably a bit more, and you're excited for the kind of uncertainty of your upcoming matches with less than 5 minutes notice. That sounds incredibly exciting. For those of us that do have that overthinking strategy, it sounds a really good tactic to be able to keep people fresh and ready and kind of excited for each match. What would be your preference?
So I think I'm definitely more known for my nogi. So I feel like I'd probably be a bit stronger in nogi, but honestly, I want to have more gi matches. I feel like especially at brown belt level now, it's very hard to
Yeah,
find matches unless you want to spend like hundreds on IBJJF. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm happy either way, gi or nogi.
And the prize pot is substantial as well. Is that a draw for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was gonna say no to 2 grand. Yeah, I
Oh,
think it's really good. I feel like I see a lot of tournaments where it's like people offering like 5K and stuff, but then you look and it's only for men. So I feel like
mm,
it's really good that Kairos is around to put on another tournament for the women.
yeah. I think it's about time, and I'm wholeheartedly supporting the event, which will just be incredible. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of personal reward, whether that's financial or kind of well-being and achievements. How do you feel your matches are going to go? Thinking about more gi matches, do you kind of prepare your mind to do these things beforehand?
Um, I honestly don't know, because like competing, it's never be like I know some people get like nervous or like stressed around competition, but it's not
Mm.
like that for me. Like I'm usually just excited. It's like obviously I'll be thinking like strategically wise, and like in training I'll be thinking like what I need to work on, what's gone badly
Yeah,
for me in previous competitions. But generally speaking, I'm not too concerned. Like I'm not stressing
yeah,
about the process.
good. I like that. And it sounds like you're not one of those overthinkers and you're just excited about the whole experience.
Yeah.
What advice or kind of yeah, advice would you give to any women in the under 55 bracket to kind of up their game and, start thinking about competing a bit more if they're not already, or kind of putting themselves out there for kind of prize fund money?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess in terms of advice, I'd say like try and get yourself to open mats where you can train with women, like even if they're not in your weight category. I just think like it makes such a big difference compared to training with men. I feel like if you're always training with men, it kind of makes you fight in a weird way because you're always like you always have to be quite defensive and quite protective. You're thinking like, oh, I can't go for this because then I'll get stabbed and I'll be stuck in side
Yeah,
control for 5 minutes. Whereas if you're training with women, there's a bit more freedom to like experiment. And then when you've had those kind of experiences, you'll feel more confident in signing up to compete. So yeah, it's all about just kind of like getting experience where you can and then
yeah,
sign up for the competitions. People will see your name in the bracket. They'll be like, oh, there's someone in my category. I'm going to sign up. And then it
yeah.
just snowballs from there.
I think that's a really good thing. I have, only just started kind of training at women's open mats. I'm heading down to Enyo in May for their open mat. And it hadn't really occurred to me, but you sharing the kind of struggles being stuck inside control for, 3, 5 minutes in, kind of fighting with guys. I hadn't thought about the defensive strategy that we have to kind of put ourselves through rather than the attacking approach. And of course, to progress your game, it's about attacking, it's about progressing, it's about being proactive in that match. So you've now allowed me to start thinking more about the benefits of training much more with other women. I think that's really good advice.
I'm glad that could help.
Thank you. Yeah, I just hadn't thought about it that way. And the struggles that we have might not be struggles with other women. But yeah, it's good. Moti, have you got anything else to add about the Kairos Pro event?
Um, I'm not sure, other than just saying I'm excited. I want to know like who they've got on the prelims as well. I don't know if it's going to be similar to last time where they had one junior match and one adult match. But yeah, be interesting to
Well,
see who gets invited.
time will tell. Moti, thank you so much for joining me on this recording. How can people follow your journey?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So you can follow me on Instagram at Peach State. That's peach the fruit state. And yeah, I'm always posting competition highlights and footage there. So that's the best way to keep
Amazing.
up with me.
I wish you all the luck. Not that you need it. I just want to dial up that excitement for you for the Kairos event. You will be amazing.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell your friends about this show and maybe even drop it a rating and a review. Thanks again for listening. Tap you out on the next one. So cheesy.